Hi, everyone. Welcome back to school. It is Monday, January 4th. We are still doing our virtual learning. Hopefully, we will have an end to that very soon. Today, I'm here with our very first read aloud for 2021, and it's called All the Way to America by Dan Yaccarino. And this is based on a true story. Dan Yaccarino, this is a little bit about his family and his life growing up. And our strategy that we're going to be talking about this week is what we call fix up monitoring. And that just simply means that when we read and we are reading along and maybe we don't understand something about the story or something that the author is telling us, then we have to know what to do in order to make it make sense and for us to understand. And it's funny because when I was reading this story for the first time, I realized that I was using some fix-up monitoring strategies and I didn't even realize it till I had kind of thought about it. So I'm going to kind of show you when we're finished how that works. So I'm going to read this story today called All the Way to America. And if you know what an immigrant is a person who would have come from a different country to live in another country, and they usually leave their life and find a new job, a new home, and just kind of start their lives over. And so that's another kind of a little bit of background about this story. My great-grandfather, Michel, so you can see it, Lacereno grew up on a farm in Sorrento, Italy. When he was a boy, his father gave him a little shovel so he could help tend the zucchini, tomatoes, and strawberries that his family sold in the village. They worked very hard, but were always very poor. And so, when he was a young man, Michel left Italy and went all the way to America in search of new opportunities. Work hard, his father told him, handing him the little shovel. But remember to enjoy life. And never forget your family, his mother said. She hugged him and gave him their few family photographs and her recipe for tomato sauce. It was a long journey. And how different New York was from his tiny village in Italy. Like many immigrants passing through Ellis Island at the turn of the last century, he was given a new name. Michel Lacereno was now Michael Yaccarino. He was happy to be in America, but never forgot his family in Sorrento. So there's a lot of kind of big words here and names. And so as I'm thinking about what has happened so far, I know that this man named Michel, that was his Italian name. I have to kind of go back and reread a little bit in order to make sure I understand what's happening. He left Italy, his home there. He was the immigrant. He is now immigrating to America and hopes to start a different and better life. So he left his parents who are here and he's telling them goodbye. So by going back a little bit and kind of talking my way through it, looking at the pictures again, I can kind of monitor my own reading and make sure that I understand. So now he has a new name. His name is now Michael here in the United States. So this is more about what he does when he comes to America. Friends from home helped each other in this new country. Michael found work in a bakery owned by a man who had also come from Sorrento. Michael polished his little shovel till it shined and used it to measure out flour and sugar. Michael met Adeline, and soon they were married. Go this way. They found an apartment in a neighborhood called Little Italy, where many other recent immigrants lived as well. They had 5 children and did their best to teach them to work hard, enjoy life, and love their family. Michael started his own business as a pushcart peddler and continued to use the little shovel, this time to measure out dried fruit and nuts. His oldest son was named Analeo, but everyone called him Dan. Back then, children often had to leave school to help support their families. So, from the age of 12, Dan worked for his father. So, this is Michael, who came from Italy, and now they're talking about his son, who they nicknamed Dan. When Dan grew up, he married Helen. So, this would have been Michael's son, and then grandson. These are my grandparents. Together, Dan and Helen opened a market. They sold all sorts of wonderful Italian food. Now the little shovel belonged to Dan, and he used it to measure out beans, macaroni, and olives. This is Michael's son, Dan. Dan had always dreamed of living in the country, so he and Helen bought a house with a big yard and raised a family there. He loved having everyone over for Sunday dinner. Dan's love of cooking led him to open a restaurant. He made pizza, eggplant parmigiana, and spaghetti, all with his grandmother's tomato sauce, of course. Dan's son Mike would help out in the kitchen after school. So now Dan had a son named Michael, which would have been the first Michael's grandson. You can kind of see how they're kind of going through and talking about each generation of family. By now, the family was so large that celebrations were held at the restaurant. Everyone would come together to talk, laugh, and of course, eat. When Mike was a young man, he married Elaine. These are my parents. Mike opened a barber shop, and he used the little shovel to pour rock salt over the sidewalk whenever it snowed. So Mike then married this lady named Elaine. I grew up in a big house in the suburbs, not far from my grandparents. We had a garden in the backyard, and I would help my father tend to the tomato plants. Every year, my parents would take my brother, my sister, and me to the Feast of San Gireno in Little Italy. We watched the parade, listened to Italian folk songs, and ate hot zappoli. I loved New York City. So when I grew up, I moved back to the city where my great-grandfather Michel had lived. Work hard, my father told me, as he handed me the little shovel, but remember to enjoy life. And don't forget to call your family, said my mother. I did work hard, and after a few years I became an author and an illustrator, creating books for children. Then I married Sue, and soon our son was born. He is named Michael after my father and great-grandfather. Now I watch Michael and his sister Lucy work on our small terrace with the very same shovel that their great-grandfather brought all the way to America. We grow zucchini, tomatoes, and strawberries. I do my best to teach them to work hard, enjoy life, and love their family. And that's the end. And again, there's the author, Dan Yacarino, and he's talking about his own family in this book. So he is the Dan, one of the Dans that is mentioned in this book. So again, notice that as we were reading names and just came across a lot of different people, we had to go back and just make sure we understood kind of what was going on and how the family and how these people were all related or connected to each other. And that's what we call fix-up monitoring. And again, it's just kind of a fancy way of saying, make sure that you understand what you're reading. Go back if you need to. Think about the story. Sometimes it even helps to write out some notes or draw a picture if you're having trouble understanding what the author's trying to tell you. And all of those things are good strategies for comprehension and understanding what you've read. So we're going to be doing that again with some other read-alouds that I have ready for the week. And hopefully you will also find that this strategy helpful as you read on your own on Epic or your own chapter books through the week and through the rest of this year. Have a great rest of your week.